We're not closed session, are we?
No.
So we have to leave the door open?
No, you actually don't.
We don't.
No, people can come in and out. You just, you know,
I was only thinking of noise.
yeah.
I want to call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, June 23rd. It is a special school board meeting to have a bid 1305 approved, and I will ask member Loeffler Kemp to take roll.
Kelly Garrett Eater,
Excuse.
David Kirby.
Yeah.
I'm here, Chair Lopel,
Here,
Alana Oswald,
excuse.
Member Sadowski,
Here.
Member Sadholm,
Here.
Superintendent John Magus,
Present,
okay, Assistant Superintendent Anthony Bonds,
excused.
Deputy Clerk Kathy Erickson,
Here.
HR Director Tracy Severance,
Excuse.
Board Secretary Patty Paquette. Here. Board Secretary Kayla Carroll, and our student reps are excused.
We have a quorum. I call this meeting to order. On our agenda is just number 3. It's the only thing on our agenda. It's bid 1305, the asbestos abatement at Central High School. And I'm going to turn it over to Facilities Dave Spooner, CFO Erickson. Thank you.
Sounds good, Chair Leopold. I can start out. Thank you all for attending the special board meeting today. I appreciate it.
We're excited.
We needed to call this because we have to stay on our timeline. And this is approximately an 18-week project, and demolition cannot start till this is completed. We did a lot of advertising. We did a pretty good walkthrough. We had many contractors. We had potentially 6 that came through. We received 3 bids back. Prior to the bid, Nathan and I have had over and Kathy, we talked about it, and we believed this to be in the range of 1.5 million to 2.5 million. So we came in at the bottom end of the range, which was good, so we were happy about that, even though it's expensive. But it's something we do need to do. The awarded contractor needs to give a 10-day notice to the state before they can start. So that also impacted the need to call the special meeting to be able to award and to notify the contractor, get contracts in place, notification to the state. I feel we have good pricing. I feel we should proceed, and I'll open it up for any questions.
CFO Erickson, could you explain again then
Yeah.
how we plan for this in terms of this part of it, in addition to the demolition of
Yes.
the Central on the Hill site?
Correct. Thank you for that great question. So initially, when we looked at the big picture of demolishing Central High School for the requirements that we had from the city of Duluth, because you know that right away before we could consider our project and some other ideas related to a future purchase of the remaining property, the city of Duluth and planning and zoning of city of Duluth had said we have to show a commitment for the demolition of Central High School. So at that time, we had done a general estimate, which was in the range of $2 million to $2.5 million, not having gone in and done a whole lot of deep research into asbestos and all of the other component categories that we might see in the demolition. We had, when we put the sale price together for Central High School, we had built in the cost of demolition, because initially, if you remember, the very first time we were going to sell, we were selling it with the building intact. That was when we ran into some issues with the city of Duluth saying we want some assurance that the building's going to come down. So we took responsibility for the demolition and then increased the sale price of the property to basically cover that cost. So we had put in $2 million. That was kind of an estimate, knowing that we too would be most likely investing some dollars. We have some different revenue streams that we can utilize to make sure that we can put that in there. We have some money in our project budget to help with some of the overriding costs. Is this number the first step of 2? Now that we did the walkthrough and have more information related to what the asbestos abatement needs to be, higher than what we had hoped it would be? Yes. Is it within alignment with now what we've discovered as what we need to do to abate? This is well within what is a new projected budget. But just so the board is aware, we do have funds available between the future proceeds that come from the sale of the remaining property on Central on the Hill. We also will have opportunity to potentially use some health and safety dollars to help with some of the costs of abatement. And then we also have proceeds from the sale of Historic Central that are also in our operating capital right now. So we have 3 pots of money and the project budget itself, which can help cover the cost of the actual demolition plus the abatement. And as Dave Spooner had mentioned earlier, when we had done a demolition in the past, we had been able to do an entire demolition, calling it completely hazardous and not having to do the abatement separate. We're not able to do that. We did, our management team reached out to MPCA and others to see if we could contaminate the whole site, run it under one, and they said no. So laws have changed, processes have changed. We're following that process now, but we have funds to cover this within 3 different pots of revenue to make sure that, and we're still on track, we're still on budget for our project. So I don't want you to think that we have to take anything away from our planned budget. We have those funds available and open for any other follow-up.
So that law changed prior to the long range, or just after we finished the long range
Correct, I'd
facility
say
plan?
a decade ago probably. Most likely it's a lot stricter than it used to be.
So it must have changed within the last 5 years or last 5 to 10 years.
I'm not sure exactly when, but we did reach out to MPCA and EPA, and there's no way that they would allow that building to be considered hazardous and let us take it down as is.
And then I had asked earlier, prior to the meeting, I just was curious about other buildings that we may own that might have some asbestos in it, and you kind of assured me that
We're getting close to being clean. I mean, we've worked in the red plan in every building. I think I'd have to look at the reports, but there could still be some in Denfeld, possibly in the old section of Myers-Wilkins, maybe some in Congdon, but we're getting pretty good.
some of that gets hardened or secured,
It's all encapsulated.
encapsulated, right?
Correct. There's no building with floating asbestos at this point.
And
We're-
Dave, did you mention maybe before the meeting, there's a difference between friable and, so one of the things about Central is that the abatement is different than Laura MacArthur, where it was less risk. And so that's part of why MPCA couldn't see finding their way to making it a fully abatable and demolition at the same time.
So is there any aid or funding from NPCA or any state agency to help deal with these kind of
There are some health and safety funds that we could levy for, but that's on the taxpayers, that's on Duluth taxpayers. That's why we built in the sale price dollars and part of our budget price dollars so that we wouldn't have to go over and above. But if the whole project, we need to find that balance, we'll be using access to all of the funds we have available to make sure that the project comes in and our whole overall project stays on budget.
Thank you.
I have a question, just what if, because we are now having the campus on the market again, do we feel confident that we're gonna get that asking price? Because we built in this cost to that asking price. What if, as a board, we would have to keep that in mind when someone comes in for an offer?
So we're in purchase agreement negotiations right now.
That's
We are
right.
very hopeful that we'll be bringing something forward relatively soon. We have a couple complementary things that we're working with the city of Duluth on that need to be resolved before we can come back to the board with a final purchase agreement. But I can tell you that it has been very good working with a potential developer, and we look forward to sharing more information. We have a target date of June 30th to resolve some of the requirements that we have with the city, which will then get attached to a purchase agreement. So Dave and our team have been working really closely with city staff, and we feel very confident that within the next 10 days, we're gonna get those things resolved. From there, we'll be working towards finalizing what would be a potential purchase agreement that could come back to the board in a closed meeting for consideration and final negotiation.
Great.
Dave, can you tell me, what's the added alternative number 1?
Adult number 1, I've included in here, I don't think we'll be using it, but we won't know until we get the demolition bids a week from today. And what adult 1 does, for instance, one of the big components would be excavators would clear the soil along the foundations, and Mabel would come in and scrape the waterproofing out because it's asbestos containing, and then the contractor that's demoing the building would have the ability to crush and reuse that concrete. But if they don't scrape it off, they have to dispose of it as hazardous. So the adult 1 contains all the items that are listed in unit pricing, but I don't think it's going to be cheaper to do that. I think it's going to be most cost effective to go with the base bid and then go with the base bid from a demo contractor. So we wanted some flexibility to see which way is the best way to go. I really feel that we're not going to be better off going with an adult. I think the base demo bid that we get next week the base demo bid and the base abatement bid will be our cheapest road.
Is the packet that's in front of us, publicly accessed after we,
It's on board.
it's on board book now, okay?
Has this company, worked on similar projects like this?
Mabel is one of the best companies around. They're multi-state.
I've never
They were who I
demolished
was
anything, so, I wouldn't know that.
That-
One
that's
of
who I
the
was
fun
hoping
things
for.
about being a school
Oh,
board member,
that's
you
good to
learn
hear.
all kinds of fun facts that you will share with people over coffee or something.
No, it's the company that I was hoping would have the
Okay,
ball.
excellent.
And then you're saying this abatement could happen in, like, we have to wait 10 days after we approve
They have
this
to do
to start?
a notification of 10 days, but yet I have to get a contract, and, well, you'll get the contract via DocuSign. But
Okay,
I would hope to see somebody on there in 10 days, busy working. It's a busy time of the year for them, but
And then I just noticed, because I'm interested in this, so air monitoring will be performed by Twin Ports Testing, and is that kind of a standard thing in a project?
that's in statute. It
Okay.
can't be, it's kind of like the fox and whatever this saying goes, you can't have the contractor doing their own air monitoring. It has to be a different entity.
I'm assuming Mavo Systems and other asbestos abatement companies like this have their own insurance. I mean, you see commercials
do.
all the time for cancer related to asbestos, so that won't be on the,
That's part of our
District.
requirements.
Okay.
They provide insurance. Any type of work that's done by any contractor, they provide insurance.
Isn't that what you provided us here?
That's a bid bond. It's,
Oh, okay.
oh, that's what I was wondering if that's in there. Thank you.
you're welcome.
any further questions? Are we looking for a motion to approve?
Correct.
I'm looking for a motion. Member Sandholm makes the motion to
I
approve.
second.
And Member Lafleur Kemp is a second, and she'll record that on our, yeah. All those in favor of accepting bid 1305 asbestos abatement at Central High School campus, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Looks like our motion carries 5-0. Had to count, you know.
Thank you.
5-0, okay. That's our job. So we're at the end of our agenda, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Member Kirby says we'll adjourn. Member Sandholm is our second on adjournment, so this meeting is adjourned at 4:16.